Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Riccardo Bosi, National Leader of Australia1, and welcome to another Australia1 update, except I'm wearing sort of two hats, I guess, here, the A1, but specifically I'll be talking about general issues as an A1, as a leader of A1, but occasionally I'll talk about things as a candidate, the independent candidate for Greenway. And so just to keep the AEC happy, this is authorised by Riccardo Bosi, independent candidate for Greenway, 122 Perfection Avenue, Stanhope Gardens, New South Wales, 2768. Good evening, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Riccardo?
I'm always well, and particularly good this week. It's been a great week. Right, you've got some questions for a bunch of people, so please, let's go.
Okay.
And, let's kick off.
First question. What do you think about the ALP helping you purchase your property?
Oh, in the future, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. That's the short answer. Now, just so people may or may not be aware, the ALP is saying, we're going to help you 40%. Well, we'll help you buy your property. So they're going to help you get your property, and they're going to take part ownership of it. Now, this is going to be then controlled by a government that can trash the economy and make it impossible for you to return, keep up with your mortgage payments. So this is a really clever way of a malevolent organisation like the ALP or the Liberals, and just the governments in general, to do exactly that. They help you get it. Then the economy is so tough, you can't make the payments, they get your house. Now, where has this been done before? Well, I think I mentioned it last time. The Chinese do it with third world nations. They promise to build them port facilities, knowing that they can never repay the debt. And so the Chinese say, no problem, we'll just take over the port. So that's how they get these massive naval facilities around the world with the approval of the local government. That's the trick. Now you think, oh, well, that's a bit of a stretch. Come on. It's not really like that. National governments wouldn't do that to their people. Really? Well, guess what's happened in Chile? Now, Chile tends to get right of centre governments, but they elected a couple of socialists, and they've got a socialist leader now, hardcore socialist, and his decisions are so bad, about 50–60% of the Chileans are now screaming in pain and want to get rid of this lunatic, because what he's done and he's doing to the country. Now, they're doing the same thing. They're going to help you with the Chileans. They're helping their people with 100% of their house, so they'll take 100% ownership. But here's how it works with them. They'll help you buy your house, and you can live it as long as you live. But the moment you die, ownership transfers to the government. You cannot bequeath it. It is not yours. So this is, for those of you who still haven't been sort of unwashed your brain, this is it's a technique that gets rolled out across the entire planet. It's not like Albanese's policy team came up with this. They're just following globalist orders. That's what it appears like to me anyway. And that's what's happening in Chile. It's happening here. It's all the same stuff. Now, by the way, people think that Oz is copying it hard. Well, yeah, maybe. But the Chileans, they're on their fourth injection, their fourth jab, and they're still wearing masks. So life is pretty tough over there. And they've so beaten the Chileans down that they'll go with anything. They literally will go with anything, but I think they're finally realizing that they're under control. So Albanese's assistance has got nothing to do with helping struggling people to buy their first home. It's to do with getting control of the property, so they will own nothing. And that's how it works. If the ALP or the Liberals or the Nationals or Greens wanted to help people purchase their own property, they'd cut the tax rate, and they'd make sure they'd stop doing deals with property developers to constrain the urban growth boundary, which increases the price. They release land in small packets. The property developers build these houses cheek by jowl, maximize the profits, pay off the crooked pollies that allow this to happen. And then they open up another small packet of land. Outside where I live, there's acres and acres of farmland. And you see the property developers, and they are literally, you think you're in the middle of suburban Sydney. The houses are cheek by jowl. There is no space. And then you've got hundreds of hectares around this concentration. It is a scam. The reason young people, old people, anybody in Australia can't buy a house is because of this crooked alliance between the accountants, the banks, the property developers, and the politicians. That's it. So no, please realise what Albanese is doing. That's the ALP helping you to own your property. No, that's the ALP setting you up for a fall so the government can control your land.
Thanks for that, Riccardo. Next one. What's this about taxing driving?
Oh, yeah. Apparently, there was a document leaked, a plan, out of the Premier of New South Wales, Premier's office, that they want to tax all the drivers in New South Wales for every kilometre they drive, 3 cents per kilometre. Now, you've got to wonder which lunatic came up with this idea, because the tolls are paid for. The government went into business with Macquarie Bank, and Macquarie Bank's nickname in the industry was the Millionaire Factory. Now, why would a government go into build infrastructure with a bank with the nickname the Millionaire Factory? And the tolls are outrageous. They're the roads are already choked with too many people, so it ends up being a 3-kilometre car park. So they have the privilege of paying, 10, 12, 15 bucks, whatever it is, to sit in this stationary road. And so they want to now charge people 3 cents a kilometre. Now think of the people in Western Sydney outside the CBD. There's a lot of commuting going on, say from Western Sydney, Northern Sydney, and one down south to get into the city, and they want to charge them 3 cents a kilometre. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to understand that the government's job is just to put their hand in your wallet, take it out, and give it to somebody else. It doesn't even go back into consolidated revenue in order to build more infrastructure or meet your needs. It goes straight overseas to special interests. So the Liberal government of New South Wales under Dom Perignon Perrottet, the son of the world banker, their job is to take money out of your pocket, and he's doing a bang-up job. So their next plan is 3 cents per kilometre that you drive. Ladies and gentlemen, please wake up and realise that Liberal, Labor, National Greens, none of them have your best interest at heart. None of them.
Thanks, Riccardo. Sounds like we need a change of government.
Yep. No argument from me, Sarah.
And just to all our listeners, watchers out there, just make sure that you're there on the 21st, Saturday, the 21st of May, because this is our chance to push back. We better keep moving because I know you've got another Q&A to jump onto. Why is Blacktown City up in arms?
The Blacktown City Council. I heard a rumour that the Blacktown City Council is mandating vaxxers for the Blacktown City Council workers. And I actually confirmed this personally with a councillor from the Blacktown City Council. And she and her colleague, and she's a Labor councillor because we're at the booths, and she was helping get how to vote cards out for the Labor candidate in the Cedar Greenway. And I asked her, and it was a very polite conversation. Well, from my end it was, from her end. What is it? Okay, I'm going to divert just slightly. What is it about Labor that makes them so nasty? I mean, really, I get angry and I swear, but they're just nasty. It started raining and my security brought an umbrella, and she said, why don't you let them get wet like real people? And I said to her, yes, you're right, madam. I was born on a cloud and spared high nutrition muesli from a silver spoon all my life. And she realized that she'd fucked up, and they are the nastiest pieces of work. You got to understand that these people are just plain nasty. There's a depravity amongst them that I just don't get. I really don't get. Anyway, she was a councillor, and she proudly confirmed to my very polite question that Blacktown City Council workers are now forced to get the jab. How about that? So Blacktown City Council workers, get the jab or resign. Now, we know it's unlawful, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional. We know all of that, but they don't care. And so Blacktown City workers, you've got a choice on the 21st. You really do. It's about time a lot of Labor voters in the Cedar Greenway, which is the seat I'm running for, and yes, this is an ad for me, no doubt about it. Best you vote for somebody else, because if you keep voting Labor, they're going to take your house, they're going to kill you. It doesn't matter who you vote for other than an independent, because that's exactly what they're all going to do. So Blacktown City workers, you're for the high jump now. Vax or die. Vax or get sacked, rather.
It's interesting that they're implementing it now. Like, why now? Why not earlier?
Because they're imbeciles. They really are. These people are so detached from reality. They can't manage to do 3 minutes grueling research on the internet. These are drones. They just follow orders. These are the red hats. You know, that Labor City councillor, she is literally a red hat. Not red for Labor, but red in the fact that you can tell her to do anything. I'd bet my bottom dollar. You can tell her to do anything, and she just do without question. And the only thing that'll shift her won't be a reasoned debate like the previous day when I was there, another Labor volunteer was getting quite offensive, and she falls in that category. This other one, and they're twins, because there's this particular brand of woman out there. They're in their 60s and 70s. They're short, grossly overweight, short hair, and they disagreement to them constitutes criticism. Criticism constitutes abuse, and abuse constitutes rape and murder. So if you disagree with these short-haired, fat, 60-year-old Labor women, you are a Nazi, just by disagreeing. And I've got to say, that sounds like a gross generalization. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, come back at me. Because the depraved indifference this category of woman has to issues like full-term abortion, and that was the discussion the first night. And generally, you don't have political discussions at the polling booth. You're supposed to be polite. The time for debate's over. You hand the how to vote out and you leave it at that. But she pressed the question, who's this Bosi guy? What does he stand for? And she started the discussions. So I did her the courtesy of answering, and very quickly she turned into this loathsome individual with a depraved indifference to the suffering of others, incapable of having a disagreement presented to in a calm, rational way. It's funny. It's a breed of woman, and I'm not sure what they did to women in those days, but my God, it's damaged a few of them. So that's it. So anyway, back to the point. Why are they doing it now? Don't know. Labor are just, man, the Labor of the red hats. They will only change course when they see the black hats who are giving them orders arrested, and that's going to come soon. And watch their lives fall apart when their self-importance evaporates like a puddle on a road on a hot day.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that day. Okay. Now, we have a lot of questions around the upcoming federal election, Saturday, the 21st of May. People want to know, how is your campaign going?
Right. Well, now I'm not talking as the head of A1. I'm talking about the candidate for Greenway, independent candidate for Greenway. How's it going? Absolutely outstanding. It's brilliant. The generosity and warmth of the A1 family, and I mean it. These people are extraordinary. We've been receiving, pots of honey, donations from people saying, "Look, we know it's a bit tough for you. Thanks for all your work." And they'll shake your hand. There's a few dollars in the hand. They'll send an envelope with a few more dollars, but they say, "Look, just do it." So that personal generosity. And in fact, the tie I'm wearing tonight was given to me last night at a Q&A we did in Seven Hills by a woman called Maggie. And Maggie said, she came up and said, "Look, this is one of my father's ties. He passed." And she gave me 3 of them. And it's a nice A1 sort of tie. It's got the A1 colours. But anyway, she said, my dad would have loved you. And so if you'd like to take these ties and wear them, please do. And it's just so touching. And that's the nature of the A1 family. It's extraordinary. And we come from all spectrum of community. We really do. And so in that sense, it's just fantastic. The team has come together under my campaign manager, Jackie. She's just a machine. And the assistance, the volunteering, the selflessness, the generosity, the building and paying, the paying for and building for things, and the core flutes and the A-frames and the volunteering at the booths, just brilliant. Just they can't wait to get more involved. And so it's going well. On the other side, not in my seat, not in my seat, but in a neighbouring seat where I was visiting one of the booths there just to see how things were going. The UA candidate was in a flat spin, and I won't say male or female, but the candidate was in a flat spin. When the candidate realised that they'd been stitched up, they got zero support from Palmer, except a couple of $1,000 for a sausage sizzle. That was about it. That was the candidate's description of the level of support. No advice, no training, no guidance, no tricks for young players like A1 is doing for the A1 independents. None of that. And she was literally just panicked when she realised there was no way she was going to manage to do this. And, you know, Sarah, we've been talking for some time. You want to run a campaign, and let's pick an easy number. Let's say you've got 50 booths. We've got, I think, 42 in Greenway. But easy numbers, 50 booths. You're going to need six volunteers per booth, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 1 scrutineer, 1 reserve, and a booth captain to run the show. That's 50 times 6. That's 300. Go build your army. And how many months have we been saying, go build the army, go build the army? And that was the reason why. But this poor candidate, my God, and the candidate said to me many times, we have to talk. I said, I'll be talking after the election. It'll be too late. It'll be too late. And the candidate was in a flat spin. Then we've had, believe it or not, ALP volunteers changing signs. They literally see the Riccardo Bosi Independent for Greenway volunteers, and they will come across and start talking. And take off the red shirt and put on the Bosi shirt and start handing out how to vote for Bosi. Now, that's not to impress you with me, because it's not me. It's the message. It's the message that we are putting forward that is attracting people from all sides of the political spectrum, all sides, even the Greens, the genuine Greens, who just want a well-managed country, and so do we. Of course, we do. The lunatic Greens, who are actually just communists in disguise, but we attract everybody: Liberal, Labor, Nationals, and genuine Greens who know that we've got to do the right thing. So, in that sense, how's it going in a broad sense? Bloody brilliant. We're having a great time, and we're very optimistic.
That's great to hear, Riccardo. I just want to clarify one little thing. We don't have A1 candidates, but we have A1 supporters that are running as independent candidates.
Thank you. I trip over that all the time.
I know.
A1 candidates, we are all independents. And in a genuine sense, I can give you how independent they are. When it came to sorting the preferences for their seat, they said, well, how do we preference? And I said, that's up to you folks. You are independent. You're going to meet the needs of your electorate, and you can preference any way you want to. Unlike the parties, A1 doesn't impose that. These independent candidates who happen to be A1 supporters, who are running as independents, they get to decide their preferences their way. And that's how genuinely independent candidates are from the A1 organisation. So thanks for that, Sarah.
No worries. Next question. How should volunteers behave at the booth?
Right. Notwithstanding the discussion I had with that Labor, well, there we go. We're going somewhere. Earthquakes. Maybe they're clearing out the dumbs. Right. Volunteers at booths. Tactics for tiny tots, but look, the time for debate's over. Just be polite, be helpful, cooperate, and just be nice to people. Just hand out the vote. If they want the card, then do so. If they don't, then that's fine too. Don't engage in debate. It's a matter of just giving them the actual how to vote. Now, having said that, once again, Labor Party tend to be the worst. Greens and Labor together, their volunteers, they're a little bit frantic, a little bit frenetic, and they'll shoot sort of bubs across the way at you, and they'll just be rude. They'll just try to provoke a response. Please do not engage in any response. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Having said that, because a lot of the Labor supporters are from the unions, and the unionists are fine, but what the AEC staff will sometimes do, and this happened at Eden Monaro when we ran down in the southeast corner of New South Wales. The AEC, the senior AEC official, collaborated with the ALP voters to allow the ALP volunteers to have the main path into the area and hand out the Labor how to votes, and they forced all the other parties away from the main path. And so the Labor machine penetrates every aspect of this organisation, and they literally did that. If anything like that happens, if any physicality starts, don't respond, please. It's not your job. The AEC official is required to make sure the senior AEC official is required to make sure the booth is run according to the rules. If anything happens, report it to the AEC official and immediately report it to the candidate who will put an official complaint to AEC returning divisional officer. This is serious. It's not a game. Labor Party think it is. They've been cheating votes for decades. We know that. Liberal couldn't care less. They're two wings of the same bird. They make deals on who's going to win the seat. That's how sick it is now. But the Labor are the ones that do it. So if anybody does anything problematic to you, stay cool, report it to the senior AEC official and advise them. You will also immediately be reporting it to the candidate who will report it to the AEC, and the AEC official who's doing the wrong thing will be disciplined. That's the way it goes. So be polite, don't engage in debate, be nice. But if anything goes wrong, make sure you report it to the AEC official and to the candidate.
Thanks, Rick. Next one. What is the AEC's vote save?
Okay. We caused a stir.
Yes.
And there's a correction. There's a correction coming up. In the interview with the Aussie Cossack, I said one above. This is for the Senate only. Lower house, the green ballot. Lower house, you've got to number all the boxes. You are forced to preference someone you don't like. Now, in the upper house, in the Senate, the large white sheet of paper, and it's about the size of a bed sheet, you actually have what's called optional and preferential voting. You don't have to, you don't have to fill in every box. Now, the rule, what the AEC will tell you is above the line, you're voting for parties, you're voting for groups, and you've got to do 6 above the line. If you don't want to do that, you've got to do a minimum of 12 below the line. So now you're doing 12 individuals, not groups. So you either do one or the other. You either vote above the line for a group or party, or 12 below the line and you're doing individuals. Now, small problem with that. When I was doing the calculating the preferences for Greenway, what am I going to recommend people vote? How do they vote in Greenway? You have a look at it, and because you're forced to put that many numbers in the boxes, eventually the votes all trickle down to Liberal and Labor. You are forced to. You are forced to make a choice between those two loathsome organisations who have betrayed the nation for decades. Now, because this is not our first rodeo, and we've done this a few times, in the scrutineering process, like after the votes are done and they start to count, the candidate is allowed to have scrutineers in there, and they watch the counters count to make sure they're counting honestly. Now, we know that this is almost set up so it is impossible for the scrutineers to know what's going on, because you might have a dozen people counting votes, but each candidate's only allowed one scrutineer. So how can one person do it? They can't. And in my opinion, I think this is an intentional strategy by the AEC under the control of the Liberal Labor parties to make sure that it doesn't reflect an honest opinion of the people. It is just done this way. And there are so many little steps that the AEC allows to take place that makes it hard. Now, during the scrutineering process, many people fill in the ballot incorrectly and it becomes an informal vote. And the informal votes range from people drawing penises on it and sending messages like, take a sexual holiday, all of you bastards, things like that, to actually putting the wrong numbers in the boxes. They might put 2 number 1s or 2 number 2s by mistake, or they leave a box out, or they tick it instead of putting a number. So these votes are called informal. They don't count. They just get put off to the side. They don't count. Now, there's this concept called vote save. Now, vote save is a technique that will save as many votes as possible. If it is clear what the intention of the voter was, then it'll even though it doesn't formally meet all the requirements, it'll still be considered a formal vote. For example, let's say somebody writes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then puts a dot in the 7th box, or half a scratch. It's pretty clear that the voter intended to put the 7th number into that box. So that's considered a formal vote, even though strictly speaking it's not. It's called a vote save. Now, how does this affect the upper house? And this is key, because I believe the Liberal Labor parties are intentionally forcing you to give them your preference, because eventually it trickles down. Your first preference, if they don't get up, it trickles down and it's going to land in 1 or 2 buckets, Liberal or Labor. Now, in the Senate, you need a percentage of the vote of the state. It's called a quota. Go watch Topher Field's videos if you want. He explains it very well. But this vote save provision also applies in the Senate, voting for the Senate, to the extent that instead of 6 up above the line and 12 below the line, you can vote 1 above the line and 6 below the line. Now, here's where the correction comes in. I previously said 3 below the line. Inaccurate. So this is a correction. The vote save provision for the Senate vote on the large white sheet of paper, 1 number above the line and 6 below will be considered a formal vote. Now, the difference is, if your number 1 pick above the line doesn't get in, your vote then exhausts. It doesn't trickle down. And I find that a very attractive situation, because I had a look at the Greenway Senate candidates and you could see it. Didn't matter who you voted for, eventually it's going to trickle back to Liberal and Labor, and they want their Senate seats. Why do they want their Senate seats? Well, for the Labor Party, that's where they put all their long-suffering red hat stooges that have been doing bad things all their lives, and this is where they sit back on their retirement packet. And that's why they'll die in a ditch to get a Senate nomination in the number 1 slot. But I'm suggesting that maybe, it's time they didn't do that. So what I'm recommending, and it's a valid vote, is 1 vote above the line. Now, in New South Wales, I had a look at everybody, and the only one that I thought was even close to reputable is the Federal ICAC Now Party, FIN, Federal ICAC Now Party, and that's Group J on the Senate ballot, and that's what I've recommended on my how to vote. Group J, 1 number, the number 1 in the Group J box above the line, and leave the rest blank. That is a formal vote. Now, you'll hear a lot of YouTube loudmouths, and in fact, if you ring up the AEC, I'm sure they probably won't know. Now, the AEC workers, they're quite fine. I don't think they're corrupted. They just want to do a good job the right way. But it's almost like the system is designed to cock up and force people to vote for people they shouldn't vote. Sarah, you were investigating this yesterday, and you highlighted this error that I made earlier. What was your experience when you rang up the AEC?
I actually rang up today. I phoned them up a few times, actually, just to clarify a few things. Number one, can you vote in pen? And the answer was yes, and it doesn't matter what colour it is, you can vote in pen. Now, with regards to the vote save, the woman I spoke to today, she had no idea what a vote save was. And I directed her to the Scrutiny's Handbook, page 38. She goes, oh, okay, you're right. If you can put a 1 above the line or 1 to 6 below the line. And also, I believe I read somewhere that with regards to the House of Reps, so the little green ballot paper, you can number all bar 1. So that's also vote save. But I would recommend to go and do your own research and have a look at this. So I also went on to the AEC website, and you can find practice votes. So you can practice a vote with a House of Reps, the green ballot paper, and then you send it the big white one. So you can actually practice doing your 1 to 12 to see if it's a valid vote. If you do 1 to 6, it actually comes up with an informal vote, but then there's a link below, and when you click on it, it comes up and it says that it's a vote save, and 1 to 6 below the line is counted as a formal vote. But there's this confusion, and it's as if the leadership of AEC have deliberately done this to confuse people, because my concern is the people counting these votes will go, they'll look at my ballot paper, I've done 1 to 6 below the line, and they'll go, well, that's informal, I'm not going to count it. So I guess that's a concern of mine. It's like they're deliberately doing it.
Yeah, no, I've got to agree with you there. When the AEC staff themselves, who are by and large excellent people, they're top draw people, they really are. I've never had a problem with the staff at the Divisional Returning Office level. But the leadership and the Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Matters that deals with the leadership of the AEC, my God, I just don't trust them anymore. So anyway, that's it.
Can I just add another thing too? To be a scrutineer, you don't need to be an Australian citizen. I thought that was interesting.
Isn't that fascinating? They'll hire thousands of people that don't know and don't care.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much. There you go. We better keep moving because you've got to jump off. So last question, is there going to be vote fraud?
Oh, absolutely. Goddamn right there will, just like there has been in every election. How's the vote fraud done? Well, let's go back to the vote count for a start. It's as sophisticated, it's as unsophisticated, say, as an eraser stuck under the fingernail on one side and a pencil lead stuck under the fingernail on the other. And when nobody's watching, you rub it out with one finger and you put a number with the second. That's unsophisticated. Then you get the Labor favourite, which is boxes of votes found the next day. Oh, look, we found 4 or 5 boxes and they all preference the Labor Party. What a surprise. And it flips at the end. Now, they don't like doing that, so that's what they'll try very hard on the night, making sure everyone goes to bed believing the Labor candidate has been in front. So it's harder to swap, but that goes on. Then you've got the more sophisticated version. Now, have a look at this. Now, you tell me if this smells right. Does this pass the sniff test? Applications for postal votes. And both major parties do it. There's the LNP in Queensland, application for postal vote. And here's the one from Michelle Rowland, who is the Labor candidate for Greenway, where I'm running. And she sent one out too. And I'm guessing that everyone's doing it. It's an application. Read that. Application for a postal vote. Terrific. Why would an MP be doing that? Isn't this the AEC's job? The AEC to set up a process by which those who require a postal vote. No, we're just trying to be helpful, say the MP, because, there are old folks in the old folks' home and people are busy and we just want to help. Yeah, bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. Now, the interesting part of all of that is once you put your postal vote application in, included in this lovely letter in Greenway's case from Michelle Rowland, right, is this. I don't know if you can read that. Let me just get that steady. There you go. So a replied paid envelope with your completed application for a postal vote going to a partisan member of a political party whose interest is staying in power. Now, am I suggesting Michelle Rowland is corrupt? No. Am I suggesting the Labor Party is? Oh, damn right, and so is the LNP and the Liberals and the rest of them. But there's no personal shot at Michelle Rowland. But it appears to me that Michelle Rowland might be a de facto, after the fact, criminally involved in vote fraud. Now, is this vote fraud? Is it vote harvesting? I think they call it in the US, where they'll get all the postal vote applications, get all the postal votes, and then help people vote. This doesn't pass the sniff test. This is the most precious thing every Australian has, their right to vote to a secure election, other than their family. And yet you have partisan individuals getting involved in the process. Now, Tom Rogers is the head of the AC. I know Tom, and I've mentioned Tom 1,000 times. He's a lovely bloke. Thick as two short planks, not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's the sort of guy that just does what he's told, not because he's criminal. He just follows orders. That's what he appears to me. I could be wrong. This guy could be a genius. He could be a lovely chap, and he's doing a good job for the AC. All evidence aside, of course. Because when the Australian National Audit Office did an audit on the AC 5-6 years ago, how many of the recommendations has the AC fixed? None. Zero. Nada. Buckus. Donut. So, Tom, you might be a good bloke, mate, but, the evidence, not there with you. Something stinks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close very shortly, but something really stinks. This election is critical. We've had the jab. We've had lockdowns. We've had mask mandates. We've had businesses go broke. All of it. Even if you believe the disease is real, even if you do, the government's response has been catastrophic, personally and professionally and nationally. And I don't think it's real anyway. We know that the evidence is coming out about the jab. It's got nothing to do with your good health. It's about damaging Australia. And these same people are asking for you to elect them back in. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Who do we vote for? Easy. Independents first, minor parties second, majors last. Now, this is not going to create a moral government which reflects the attitudes of the people, but we've got to get enough independents in there to smash them. And I've got a message for Tom and the political leaders and all the other elites in this country. And please, I want you to take this personally, not as a threat, because you may not have seen this because you're so busy in your little bubble there in Canberra, where you think the morons in Australia won't get it and we won't do anything, and you're going to take a little holiday like the Chief Minister in Darwin. He's going to retire for health and family reasons. Where have I heard that before? I heard stories about the Chief Minister and where he's going and why, but we'll just put that to one side. But let me just share with you, if I may, a video. And I want everybody from Tom Rogers, because we're talking about the election, every political party, let's just leave it at that stage, every political party, every political member, every political candidate, and everybody in the AEC from Tom Rogers down, just in case you didn't know. Now, the video, this is Robert David Steele. And he's a former CIA agent who has been working for a long time now to bring out the truth. Now, he was reported dead some time ago as a result of medical mishap. I'm not sure whether he is or is not. Maybe he's under protection. Can you see the screen? Can you see the video there yet, Sarah, or not yet?
Yes, I can.
Okay, this is for Tom and all his assistants and everyone down the chain, including those running each booth, including those who have been hired to assist. Now, we know what's happening in the US with the fraudulent election. The evidence is there. 2,000 mules. If you haven't watched it, watch it. And we know that here in Australia, it's not as sophisticated as that, but we know vote fraud goes on. I've shown you before, but I'll show you again. Dr. Amy McGrath's book, Frauding Votes, Frauding Elections. This is Australia. This is Australia. Nothing new. So this is a warning. You better keep your noses clean, not a threat, just a warning, because there now will be consequences to people's actions. Listen very carefully.
We have it all. All of the illicit wealth in the world has been tracked by the National Security Agency for the past 15 years. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Wall Street has stolen $100 trillion from Main Street with naked short selling. We also know that Wall Street has laundered $100 trillion in dirty money from trafficking in children and women and drugs and guns and gold. I can never tire of saying that 90% of the people in the US government, the US military, the US intelligence community are good people trapped in a bad system. The secret intelligence community serves the deep state. It does not serve the American public. And CIA in particular has been doing torture, rendition and torture, drone assassination, regime change, helping to start wars based on lies, all because war and trafficking in humans and drugs and so forth are a profit center for Wall Street and the deep state. And once the president gets Binney into NSA and processes 100% of what we have at NSA, we have every single one of you by the balls. You cannot survive this. You have one out. The Truth and Reconciliation out is make the deal, motherfucker, or you are going to die.
Tom, every official working for the AEC, every politician, every political party, whether you're part of the organizational wing or the political wing, it's all there. It's all captured. And if the Americans are going down, and we know
coming out soon,
that you take orders from not the Australian people. We know from whom you take your orders. If they go down, you're going down. So I strongly recommend that this election be as clean as possible for your sake. Right. That's it from me, Sarah. I have nothing else.
Thank you so much.
Unless you've got a question or two you'd like to finish off before we go.
I've just got one little thing, something to mention to everyone who's considering putting independence first, as everyone keeps saying. Make sure you research who your independent candidate is. Make sure you research all of them. Ask questions. You know, if they're out and about, go up and ask them the questions, you know, about full-term abortion, you know, do they support it? And whatever agenda aligns with you, you know, ask them the question, because there are independents that are not genuine independents that are being funded by Labor or Liberal. My mum has a friend and there was an independent in their area, and it turned out she's being funded by the Liberals. Yep. So that is, I would just say, please do your research. Ask them what their take is on the mandates. You know, are they in favour of the mandates? And yeah, that's just my little.
That's exactly right. What you'll find is most of the independents aren't independent at all. They're all shills for the majors, and we've known that for years. But once again, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. That's why Australia1 has not and will never sign up with anybody else. We are the only organisation that prepares independent candidates to be independent. You know what the policy set is, but they are owned by the people of the electorate. That's how it works. We don't trust anybody. That's why we don't do it. And there's another group, thanks for mentioning that, because there's one more group they should be aware of. They're these Climate 200 independents, the Homes of Court. Now, big money. Homes of Court. Funding 200 independents, that they are, there is no independence there in my opinion. None at all. They're there to do a job, and whoever pays the piper calls the tune. And Homes of Court is not handing out all that money to 200 independents so they can do what they think is right. We do. We know. It's exactly what we're doing. We're trusting them to do the right thing. But understand this, folks, you're being conned. You're being brainwashed. And if you say, oh, it doesn't matter, yeah, it does. This is your last chance. We need to get a toehold on the beach in Normandy. This is a week before 6th of June, 1944. And we're not facing the immediate threat of MG42s and 88mm coming from Rommel's Atlantic Wall on the Normandy coast. But I tell you what, you are facing exactly the same future, which is complete death, because this is a eugenics program, global genocide. Reduce the population from, what is it, 8, 9 billion, 7, 8, 9 billion to 1. And there's a video from a Club of Rome individual saying, we're hoping we can do this in a peaceful way, not necessarily happy, but peaceful. You want to kill 7 billion people and hope that it works out nicely for everybody. Folks, I've said it before, say it again. We either win this or we die, and we need to get a toehold. So for my money anyway, if you're in Greenway or you're close to Greenway, get in and support us. Help get the how to votes out. Check out the other independents that are AustraliaOne candidates. We've got Senate candidate in Queensland. Queensland, Lindsay Temple, vote 1. Lindsay Temple. Get Lindsay in. He's the best thing in Queensland at this election by far. We've got 4 candidates down in Vic, 3 in SA, 1 in WA. Folks, it's up to you. The only true independents are those AustraliaOne members who are now independent candidates. We win or we die. Last chance. Right, that's it from me. Sarah, anything else? We good?
I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I'm sure all our listeners will get a lot of good information out of this. So thank you.
And thanks again to the A1 family. It genuinely is extraordinary. I'm sure you've felt it too, Sarah. I mean, a lot of people are doing it hard and the money just goes backwards and forwards. You know, someone gets donated, gets handed some money and they'll pass it to somebody else who's in a worse space than them. And on a personal level, the gifts that we receive from complete strangers, things just turn up, you know, a lasagna, pots of honey, as I said, well wishes with cards and thanks for the effort that we're doing. We love it. The A1 family is brilliant. Come and join us. That's it from me, Riccardo Bosi, National Leader AustraliaOne and independent candidate for the seat of Greenway in New South Wales. This is authorised by me, Riccardo Bosi, independent candidate for the seat of Greenway, 122 Perfection Avenue, Stanhope Gardens, New South Wales 2768. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.